Hello guys, we'll start in 2 minutes. So just if you could tell me if you can hear me, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, guys. Good morning, good evening, depending where you're living, where you're watching this session from. I think we can get started right now. So I hope you can see the slide, the title slide, Azure Data Factory deployments. So my name is Kamil Nowinski. I'm Microsoft Data Platform MVP. I'm speaking, blogging, general data enthusiast. I'm working and living in UK. I'm working right now for consultancy company, Avanite UK and I, as a group manager. You can find me on my blog, which is sqlplayer.net. You can find there many technical posts and etc. and many more interesting and useful informations. Including also podcasts. So podcasts which you can listen the episodes and read the transcript as well, because the interviews are in that format as well. So the podcast, there's 35 episodes so far, and you can find the chats with experts from the data platform area. Probably you will recognize some of those people, some of those faces. So I would like to encourage you to visit the blog and find out the podcast. Okay, also those slides, these slides will be available on my GitHub repository. And let's see what is the agenda of this session. So first of all, we'll be talking about Azure Data Factory deployment, and only about deployment, nothing else. This session is focused only about the deployment. Two methods I will be described of Azure Data Factory deployments, maybe three, you will see. How these methods work, okay, and what are the differences between them. And also I will show you what is the NPM module from Microsoft. Microsoft published that and revealed that module like few months ago, December probably last year. But not too many people know and are familiar with this module. So I will show you that how to use it, because this now finally can and allows you to fully automate CI process, build process. And at the end, I will show you ADFtools, which makes your life easier in terms of Azure Data Factory deployment. So let's get started. So what kind of methods we have available right now? We have two methods. First method, which Microsoft recommends, is using ARM template. ARM template comes from the separate branch that is creating for us ADF publish branch. And I'm not going to describe all the things, all the steps, what is going on here, to understand when and etc. we just need to remember that you know this publish method using the ARM templates, and in that way we can deploy IDF in and its own all objects. The other method is to deploy Azure Data Factory from code, directly from code, because Azure Data Factory behind the scenes is represented as JSON files. Each object in Azure Data Factory has its own JSON file, and you know, going through all the files one by one, you can use a REST API or PowerShell commandlets and publish those objects to the target instance of Azure Data Factory. Okay, so let's have a look on those things in details. Okay, so let's first take a look on the Microsoft method, yeah, using ARM templates. So I suppose that we have our target Azure Data Factory, and we have Git repository. When we set up Azure Data Factory with our Git repository, we can work with many branches. Let's say that we can start with master branch, and then as a developer, we are creating the new branch, our working branch. Yeah. So in that situation, in that case, in that moment, you will use a separate instance of Azure Data Factory. You are working in Git mode. This is crucial, and this is important to remember that, because many people are confused, you know, when they're trying to deploy and when they don't see something, for example, or something doesn't work. So you need to just remember, if you set up the Git, you can work with Git in Git mode, and this is a pretty separate instance of Azure Data Factory. Okay. So working by browser in UI with Azure Data Factory, Azure Data Factory read this Git repository, all the files, and represent it in your browser, in your UI, and then you can change the objects, of course, and save the changes. If you save the changes, it's represent as a commit in Git, as a commits in Git repository. Okay. Then when you finish working your stuff, your feature, or whatever you worked with, so you can create the pull request and merge back all your changes to the master branch, yeah, master or main branch. Yeah? Also, you can work with Git mode and with Azure Data Factory directly with master branch as well, because only that master branch allows you to deploy the whole code, deploy and publish that. And publish, when we're working with, you know, when we want to work with ARM template, we have to click that publish button, yeah, in UI. So then in IDF publish branch, it will create and update ARM template files. Yeah. So in this branch, you will never see all the, you know, JSON files that represent in other branches. This one is specific, and this branch contains ARM templates files. Okay. So then, when we have Azure DevOps, for example, which we'll be using for building CI/CD process, then we are creating build pipeline, which is responsible for CI, which is continuous integration, right? And this CI will use and grab these ARM template files to basically create and produce artifact. This artifact will be used in the release pipeline, in the continuous deployment, okay? And using and having all those ARM templates, then you can configure your steps to deploy that artifacts, this ARM template to the target environment, to the target instance of Azure Data Factory. First of all, you have to create Azure Data Factory instance before even you start deploying ARM templates, because ARM template cannot create Azure Data Factory. It will deploy all the objects contains to it, but will not deploy the Azure Data Factory instance itself. So firstly, you have to create Azure Data Factory instance as a separate task. It might be using, for example, PowerShell or something else. Then 3 steps are required. You have to remember to stop triggers, then deploy ARM templates, and then start triggers again. Okay? So in that way, you can deploy the code from ARM template files to the target environments, to the target Azure Data Factories. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Okay, so if you would like to deploy directly from code, that's a little bit different scenario, because you don't need ADF publish branch any longer, because you will not use ARM templates. That's the main difference. Okay, so your source of code will be the main or master branch, and then your artifact will contain all the JSON files which represent Azure Data Factory. So of course, in consequence, you will need another method of deploying that Azure Data Factory. So of course, you can use Azure Data Factory PowerShell, or for example, building your own code using REST API and deploy all the objects one by one. But this is not a trivial task, to be honest. Yeah. Or you can use my tools I created a year ago, which is Azure Data Factory Tools PowerShell module that will do everything for you with one command. Or you can use from Marketplace. You can install completely free. Both of those tools are completely free. You can install extension to Azure DevOps, which is deploy Azure Data Factory. And in that way, using directly the code of Azure Data Factory, you can deploy it to the target Azure Data Factory instance. In that example, in that scenario, you don't have to even worry about creation of Azure Data Factory. Those tasks will do it for you. Okay, so only one line of code, or for example, only one task, you can do everything. So you don't have to worry about those things. Even stop and starting triggers. But I will show you that in a second. Okay, so like a year ago, I was thinking like, okay, is it only me who like to and prefer deploying directly from code? So I created that, and I tweet that message on Twitter. Very quickly I got the results from this poll and realized that okay, there's like almost 50% of people still prefer deploying from Azure ADF publish branch, which is ARM templates method, but still about 35% of people they are prefer deploying directly from JSON from the code. So I was thinking, okay, so what is the tool that can help us doing these things and deploy from directly from code? Guys, if you in the meantime have any other questions, any questions, please let me know. I will leave last 10 minutes of this session for Q&A, and I will try to answer all your questions. Okay. So feel free to post your questions in the chat window. Okay. So of course there's a pros and cons of both approaches. The biggest cons of deploying Azure Data Factory from ARM templates was that there's a restriction of amount of parameters that you can provide to the deployment process to replace some parameters, and also that is everything or nothing. So it means you can deploy only the full Azure Data Factory. There's no opportunity to do the selective deployments, which is possible when when you're building your own code, or if you're using ADFtools. So you can do selective deployments and select which objects you would like to deploy. Yeah, but the biggest cons was the limitation to one publish branch on ADF publish. And this manual step, if you had to publish, if you wanted to publish, you had to manually click the publish button in UI in the browser. Yeah. So this recently, or a few months ago, has been eliminated by Microsoft, because right now, as I mentioned earlier in the earlier slide, you can automate this process. So you can automate this process and export ARM templates with the library. I will show you that in a minute during the demo. So that's mainly pros and cons of those two methods. So how this ARM template deployment looks like, how it works. So very quickly, so this is how we looked like previously. So we don't need ADF publish branch, okay? So ARM templates will be produced in the build pipeline because we want to automate it, yeah? And our code, our source code will come, the source code comes from the master branch, okay? And of course, we don't need any longer this, manual publish action, because ARM templates will not be generated in the ADF publish branch. And in that way, we can do this and we can automate these things. Okay, let's move on to the first demo, ARM template deployment. Let me switch to the browser. So I have build pipelines. So first, I would like to show you how to build automatic CI process using the new npm import library. Let me show you what kind of steps you have to do. Apart of creating some special package file in your repository, you have to install npm package, okay? Because this library is using npm and it's stored in npm, so you have to install npm package. Which is pretty simple, but you have to do that. And I will be using my master branch and Azure Data Factory project to get Azure Data Factory code in the folder SQL Player Demo. Okay, so we don't need these things, but then we have to install the module, the library, the utility. Okay, so this is the name of the module, so the npm have to install it, and then we execute the export. So there's two methods right now, but we are interested on export method. We basically validate the code behind the scenes and export and creates ARM template files, okay, for us. So exactly the same what is going on when you click the publish button in UI, yeah. And then we want to wrap up everything, including the original code, including ARM template files as an artifact. Okay, so if we get these things like that, we will get the artifact. Let me show you how it looks like. So this is my artifact. And as you can see, there's ARM template folders which contains, the files generated by this method. So you can automate this because this will be running by the CI process. Okay, the next thing, CD. If we want to deploy these things, so how to do it? So let's go to the releases, and then ARM templates CD. We can create, I'm not going to create everything from scratch. I'm not going to run this. It's for some reason, for some specific reason it's failed, but I will show you that later on. Why is that? So basically, there's few steps, as I showed you previously on the slide, 4 steps that you need to do. Firstly, you need to create already existed, but at least you have to create Azure Data Factory. Okay, Azure Data Factory, the empty instance. Then you can use the pre-deployment script provided by Microsoft, and providing all the parameters like ARM template, like resource group, data factory name. In that way, you will stop all the triggers, for example. Yeah, and then deploy with this task ARM template deployment. Deploy all the objects using ARM template for factory, ARM template parameters, and then you can map all the parameters that are available in the ARM template. I didn't set up these parameters here, but this doesn't matter. Yeah, so you can provide all the parameters here, and in that way you can control what the values you will have, you will get at the end of the deployment per each environment. Yeah. And then post-deployment, so pre-deployment, I should change this one here. This is post-deployment. So the same exactly the fields, parameters, and etc. with this difference. Yeah. So this step basically restart all the triggers, and as far as I remember, also should delete resources in the target which is not in the code any longer. Okay, so this is how it looks like, how you can automate CI and build full CI/CD, end-to-end CI/CD process, yeah, using this automation. So 4 steps, yeah, and few steps in CI process. So then I will show you how you can how you can do the same, preparing the build pipeline with ADFtools. So let me open that. So we have only one step for validate and export ARM template. So basically providing the folder where the code exists, is located, and then select the action, validate and export ARM template, and then wrap up everything and publish as an artifact. Very easy. As you can see, everything will be done for you. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let me maybe run this and we see what is going on behind the scenes. Okay, agent job will be starting in few seconds. It's cute. Okay, it started. So the code has been checked out from the Git repository, and then this task is doing all the things. So it's checking npm version. Okay, and then installing the utilities, the module from Microsoft. As you can see, it's everything done for you, and it's checking all the code right now. And it's done. Few seconds later. Don't worry about these things. It works everything. I mean, if you see some other errors, you can start work, but then generally everything is fine. File safe. As you can see, some files has been generated, and the task has been finished. So in 42 seconds, the CI pipeline generate ARM templates for us. And we can have all the files in here in ARM templates. Yeah. Okay. So exactly the same what we have in our ADF publish branch. Yeah. If we want to deploy. So let's go back to the slides. ADFtools. As I presented like a few minutes ago, one of the tasks that allows you and speed you up, building the CI process and generating the ARM templates. Let's take a look what is the ADFtools. It contains 2 tools. Okay, it's PowerShell module, Azure Data Factory tools, which is PowerShell modules, which allows you basically generally publish Azure Data Factory, plus some other things. And the second tool is Azure Data. It's extension. It's a few tasks, 3 tasks exactly. It's extension to Azure DevOps, which behind the scenes use the PowerShell module, Azure Data Factory tools, and doing the same, but you don't have to know how to use PowerShell at all. So it's a very convenient way to build and provide all the parameters, the whole configuration in one task. I will show you that later on during this session. Okay, so more information and what's the differences between those tools, and the links that might be very useful for you is under this link. So visit on this URL and you will see. Okay, so the second demo will be deployment with PowerShell. I want to start and showing you this PowerShell module first, because you know, the understanding how it works first is crucial to understand what is going on behind the scenes, even if you use Azure DevOps task and that extension. Okay, so first I will show you how to very easily you can deploy Azure Data Factory with PowerShell. Okay. So let's have a look on this. Let's go to Visual Studio Code. So first of all, you have to install the module. This is the name of the module. So you have to install it. I already have installed this module, so I can import this module. So let me maybe clean this terminal, import the module, and then get all the modules which started with AZ. So as you can see, I have the latest version of the module, and then you can see, for example, help for publish ADFv2 from JSON, which is the main and the most important command in this module. Which allows you basically deploy Azure Data Factory with one line of code. Okay, so you can see also some examples how to use it, some examples of usage of the code of this specific command. If you are not logged in, you can log in. You can check the context or select appropriate subscription if you have more of them. Okay, so let's take a look how to very simply deploy Azure Data Factory. Let me double check if I have this Azure Data. Let me maybe clean this, whatever I have right now, yeah? Because I was doing something and I was checking and preparing my session, so probably the Azure Data Factory exists in there already. Should be another one. Okay, let's leave it for now. You will see how it works. So, okay, I'm providing the resource group. I'm providing the data factory name. Location is required if you want to for the first time create Azure Data Factory, and the root folder where I have all my folders and objects. Okay, the whole Azure Data Factory body, let's say. So if I set all those variables, then I can run only one. So I just go to the another one. And only one line of code you can use and deploy. Clear. And deploy Azure Data Factory. Let's run it now. So this Azure Data Factory is very simple. It contains only 4 objects, 2 link services and 2 pipelines. But as you can see, the whole process went very smoothly because it's small Azure Data Factory. So 8 seconds and we have Azure Data Factory created and all the objects are in there. Okay, believe me, I'm not going to show you that right now. I will show you the another one. Let me clear those things. Okay, I already dropped this one, I think. Okay, this doesn't exist. That's cool. So now I will publish a little bit bigger Azure Data Factory that I have. Okay, let me again maybe clear the console, and this time it will be called Secure Player GA, like Global Azure -test. Okay, like test environment. So again, providing all the variables and executing this line, this publish method. Okay. And let's execute this, and you will see all the basic information here. And now process created Azure Data Factory because it was not existed in the cloud, and started deploying all the objects one by one. Yeah, checking the dependencies. This is most important. Don't worry about this one. This is purely because this Azure Data Factory contains integration runtime. Which is not prepared right now, so we don't have to worry about this. I just wanted to leave this code here because it contains much more objects But as you can see, the process still carry on, so it will deploy whatever it can. Yeah, I mean, in Azure DevOps, if you face any issue, it stopped deploying the whole process, the whole Azure Data Factory. But in here, we can basically control the behavior of the session if we faced the error, for example. Yeah. So it's deploying. You can see all the details about what is going to be deployed, what kind of dependencies we have. So yeah, third error, which is fine. I was expected that. And so you very clearly see what is going on and what happened. Yeah, starting triggers if Azure Data Factory contains any, and as you can see, 1 minute and 28 seconds later, we have our Azure Data Factory deployed. Okay, let me show you that. Okay, let me refresh. This is previously deployed things. It should be dropped already. It's not. Okay, let me drop. I think this shouldn't exist. Let me delete it manually. For some reason, it didn't drop it. Okay. Well, test has been deployed or redeployed. Yeah. But we have our Azure Data Factory deployed. The main purpose of this lesson, of this demonstration, was to show you how to use a PowerShell module to deploy Azure Data Factory and how easy it is. Yeah, so you can provide few parameters, and with one line of code you can deploy everything. So as I mentioned earlier, it also allows you to deploy selectively. Okay, so you can deploy selectively, and you can do that in two ways. You can exclude some objects from the deployment by this option. So you can use the excludes collection and add to them many lines. Yeah. So in that example, I'm excluding specific objects, specific data set. In that example, I'm excluding every single object which is named like this, and in this one is another one specifically provided or selected. And this example is again using the wildcards, and I'm excluding all the data flows. Yeah, whatever the name is. Yeah. So as you can see, it's very flexible. So you can exclude the objects. For example, in this case, I exclude the object with codes and errors during the deployments. So let me run this again. So we are creating this option object, and then let me do this again and run the whole process again. Yeah. So as you can see here now, we can see how many objects is prepared to be deployed. Yeah. So as you can see, we'll skip 10 of the objects, and this is the full list of the object that will be deployed or replaced. Yeah, which is fine. And as you can see here, the process is stopping triggers, 2 of 3. Probably one of them is already disabled, so we don't have to disable it again. So it's a pretty smart process, and redeploy the objects, excluding the 10 of them. Okay, and similarly you can do the same selective deployment, but include some objects. Yeah, as in this example, I would deploy only the triggers. Yeah, the triggers, only the triggers, whatever their name is or are. Yeah. So as you can see, the process, this command telet is pretty flexible and gives you a lot of potential. Okay, environment replacement. Let me double check how much time I have for this part. Not too much, but let me explain you how to replace. This is very important, because I assume that you want to deploy to the other environments as well, not only to one. But even if you're deploying for other environment than dev, because for dev it doesn't matter. I mean, you can deploy for dev if you are not using the publish button, if you're not hitting this manually, so you can deploy on dev, on this real instance of dev environment. Otherwise, you don't need it. But I guess you have more environments like than dev, yeah, like test, maybe UAT, maybe pre-production, maybe production, yeah. So some of the objects, some of the properties of the objects you need to replace. You need to replace some values. So how to do that? So let me show you how to do that. So let's assume that we have UAT right now, and this will be our target. This is another one because previously we had test. So we will create a deployment into that. So we again want to exclude those objects. I need to provide one of the variable because that variable is exists in my configuration, which I will show you in a minute. So this is environment variable. The same variable you can configure in Azure DevOps, yeah, in variables section. Okay, and if I execute all those things, let me go and execute these things. So I can publish, and basically I have to publish this. This excludes. Let me double check if we already published to UAT. No, that was test. So let me publish this one as well. I have to uncomment this code. Okay, I will run this, and in the meantime I will show you how this configuration works. So I have another parameter provided here, which is stage or environment, providing that value UAT2, and UAT2, you know, pointing to specific configuration file, which is the CSV file. Okay, let me run this process, and I will show you the file. So if you provide that kind of parameter, you have to create and have in the config in the Git repository, you have to create a deployment folder. As you can see here, I have deployment folder and few files here. UAT2 means that I have in the deployment folder config-UAT2 CSV file. This file contains all the variables or properties that I would like to replace in my Azure Data Factory before I deploy it. Yeah. So, for example, one of the most important things is replace the base URL to the Azure Key Vault, as you can see here. Yeah. So because I'm deploying to the UAT environment, I would like to point to the other Azure Key Vault. Of course, yeah. Excuse me. So in this case is key block UAT. Okay, Key Vault. Similarly, you can replace values for some connection strings, some resource ID if you have separate integration runtime, or basically some other parameters. In this case, I'm replacing the value, but this value itself also will be replaced by not the whole value, but part of this value will be replaced by this variable, using this value from this variable. Yeah, that's great. So if we deploy that Azure Data Factory to UAT environment, we should have this value. Let's double check that. Well, let's double check the differences between those two Azure Data Factory. So let me switch to the portal. Refresh. Should be showing in a minute. Let me show you first the GI test and open that. I closed that one. Okay, I have two instances. This is the test, and let me show you linked services. And in linked services, I have linked services Key Vault. Key Vault. So that was the previous. That was original code, which is in Git repository. Yeah? But this is my test environment. In UAT, we should replace that URL. Let's double check that. Let's double check that. Linked services, key vault, and we have different URL to different key vault, which is great because this environment should use different Azure key vault. So in that way, you can very easily replace this and have different value for different Azure Data Factory instance for in different environment. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's leave this now. So this is it from the PowerShell module, I hope. Let me back to the code for 1 sec. And okay, I would like to grant also access to the key vault. So let me execute this code. I'm not going to explain this, of course we want to. Okay, let me maybe explain this a little bit. So right now, even if we have this key vault created here, when we click test connection, I have probably, yeah, I previously created and granted the permission to this Azure Data Factory, so that's why it's connection successfully. Otherwise, if you first time do that, you have to grant permission for that Azure Data Factory in Azure Key Vault, yeah? So I prepared the PowerShell code for that, to not do that manually. Okay, anyway, that's fine. Azure Data Factory has access to the reading the secrets from the key vault, which is great. And in that way, the other link services should work as well. Okay, let's back to the slides. I'm a little bit behind the time. So, custom tasks. So this extension to Azure DevOps. So this extension to Azure DevOps is deploy Azure Data Factory. You can find this in the marketplace. Contains 3 tasks. Build, as you already seen this, you can export ARM templates if you need, or you can just simply validate the code. Then publish. This is the most important part. This task uses the method I showed you just for the last 10-15 minutes because this task also use the Azure Data Factory tools module. Yeah. So and test. The test I will show you later on. I hope we'll have a few minutes to show you the test. In that task you can actually test the link services if they works. So I'm not going to go through all the capabilities of this Azure Data Factory tools. As I mentioned earlier, the publish Azure Data Factory task using the module behind the scenes. So they have also the very similar list of capabilities. So including stop-start trigger, selective deployment. You can of course deploy global parameters. You can prepare configuration for other environments. Also you can drop all the objects when they are not existing in the source code. Yeah, filtering by include or exclude, and etc. etc. So as you can see, plenty of possibilities here using this task. So I really encourage you, if you are okay using the approach of exploring the code and publishing directly from the code. So take a look on this and test this task. So we will build this task in a minute. Maybe not building it from scratch because we don't have too much time. To be honest, but already I show you that you can do selective deployments, so I'm not going to describe this one. In the task, in the extension in Azure DevOps, you can provide the list of the include or exclude filtering text objects by providing them inline in the text box or providing them by file. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not a problem. So. Third demo is how to deploy with Azure DevOps with ADFtools. Okay, so create from scratch test. We'll see how much time we have. 7 minutes. So let's go to Azure DevOps. So build is exactly the same, yes. So I can use, I showed you previously that I have build task, so I can use this. Remember to choose and change this version, to not use the older version. For the build is only available in the version 1 point something. In the version 1, it was not available in the 0 point. So build, which basically at the end wrap up all the code for us. So this is exactly the same. Whatever, if you're using ARM templates or not, build is always the same. Then, if we want to use Azure Data Factory tools for deploying, let me show you how it works. So, as I mentioned earlier, you just need to, of course, select the artifact. And as I mentioned earlier, it's only one task. So it's only one task, and you can, build that task and deploy everything. So let me maybe show you. Let me maybe not create this from the scratch. Okay, we have 6 minutes. I think we can do that. So let me create this from the scratch. So let me create new pipeline. New release pipeline, ADFtools. I'm not going to use any template. ADFtools 2 CD. Okay, I'm adding the artifact that I previously created. Come on. So it should be this one. The same code from both CI processes. And then the only task I will add will be this ADFtools. Allows me filtering all the tasks. Don't worry about this beta, it's only in my organization, but we want to publish Azure Data Factory. And if I click this one, then I need to configure this. Yeah, okay, so I have to select the subscription. This is my subscription. The resource group is Global Azure. Where's Global Azure? Global Azure. Target Azure Data Factory, it will be, let's say, we create another one. You will see that it's not a problem. Very easily I can deploy it. Let's say production, yeah? And path. So path from my artifact. And I'm not using ARM template, so my path will be this one. Contains all the folders with objects. And my target region is UK South. I hope it was UK South, yeah? Okay, stage. I will use stage from file. Or maybe let me provide it was UAT2. Okay, stop start triggers. I can, switch off this option and create Azure Data Factory. It's important specifically for the first run, but will nothing happen if you run this second and more. It will exist. It will double check if that exists, and that will be fine. And filtering type, yes, I want to filter some object and exclude them. So in this option, I will use one of the files where I have defined those 3 objects that you already seen. Yeah, so let me show you that file. Filter UAT is that one. So as you can see, I've already provided the list of the files and objects that I would like to exclude from the deployment. Okay, and that's it. So the task is prepared. So let me, I think it's all. I don't have to provide any variables right now. So let me save this and create release. Okay, now behind the scenes, what will happen? So this extension, this task, execute the publish method of Azure Data Factory Tools PowerShell module. You will see exactly the same log as we've seen previously when we looking at the how to use publish method of Azure Data Factory module. Okay, downloading artifact, which is good, and then we see the log of the deployment. Yeah, I hope everything will go smoothly. We have 3 or 2 more minutes, and then I will switch back to your question. Oh, that's weird. I have a little bit older version of Azure Data Factory tools. I don't know why. Okay, and as you can see, some properties has been modified, has been updated in this case. We didn't stop any triggers, and then the deployment one by one, or object by object, is going on. Yeah, so that's how it works. Yeah, this extension is only put on the top of the Azure Data Factory tools, which is the PowerShell module. So it's up to you what you prefer. You can use one or second tool. And it will deploy everything in the next, I hope, 30 seconds. So let's wait for it. And in a minute, I will show you something else as well. Let's maybe in the meantime see if the factory has been created. Yes, we have production here. And it's done. Yeah, 1 minute 12 seconds, everything has been deployed. Okay, another task that just wanted to show you, you can test the linked services that has been deployed to the Azure to the Azure Data Factory. Yeah, so if I try to look on the ADFtools, there's another task, test connection of Azure Data Factory linked service. So if I add that tool, the task, I need to provide few items: Azure Data Factory name, resource group, subscription, etc. List of the linked service names that I would like to test. This can be comma separated, and then client ID and client secret. This is for service principal that will run and test those linked services. So basically, you need to create a registration application, service principal, that allows you to do those things. So let me show you how it works. I will show you that in the slide, but in the meantime, I will show you how it works. Let's leave this in the release that I've created and tested previously. I have this stage failed. That's because exactly this linked services, because I had for UAT, I have linked service connection test here, and this one failed because not all the linked services has been correctly tested and successfully tested. Let me show you the log of this execution. Not this one, it was this one. So normal deployment, secrets, and run tests. As you can see, it was testing all the provided linked services. Some of them was tested successfully, some of them not. So 6 of them passed, 2 of them failed. That's why the whole task failed. Okay, so in that way you can very easily, which no other task allows you in the marketplace, you can very easily test linked services. Yeah. So it's very great. It can save you a lot of time because I've seen this from experience. When deploy something, you think that everything is fine, everything is working, but maybe you forgot to replace some value. Maybe there's no permission to the key vault, for example, to grab some secrets. And etc. etc. Maybe some URLs or blob storage has wrong URL link. There's plenty of potential reasons to get an error. So this is very great to run that kind of task just after the deployment. Okay. So we have just 8 minutes. So let me switch back to the slide very quickly. Not everything, but this task test connection was like this. Yeah. So instead of doing this manually testing connection in the UI, you can add that task and test it automatically after the publish. Yeah. Okay, guys. I think I finished the most what I wanted to present you during this session. So that's great that 7 minutes left for us for Q&A session. So this is the time. If I will not cover all the questions during this session, you can always, reach me out via email, Twitter, and ask those questions. So let me take a look on the question. So Mitesh ask, do these code deployment methods work both for linked templates and partial templates? Code deployment methods. So probably Mitesh, I think you are talking about the deployment from code. Yeah. So if you're deploying from code directly, if I understand you well, if you're deploying from code directly, you don't need the link templates and ARM template files. Yeah. So also when I'm trying to add the Azure Data Factory task in the release pipeline, it says installed, but is grayed out. It's already installed for my organization. Why don't have the ability to add it? It's grayed out. I'm not sure what you mean, but so the task is grayed out. So maybe it's not fully installed, I haven't seen that kind of scenario. Double check with someone from your organization if the extension has been appropriately installed. Yeah, and if you have the latest version of the extension. So let me very quickly show you where you can find this in the marketplace. So in the marketplace, not this one, should be this one. So in the marketplace you can find it by name. So if you want to install this, you have to click on this get it free and install this on the organization in your organization of Azure DevOps. But of course you have to have appropriate permission. So Mitesh, I think the extension is not correctly installed for you. You said also that you see two tasks, Azure Data Factory deployment and Azure Data Factory, which one I'm supposed to use. Okay, so there's 3 tasks. Okay, this publish one is for publishing Azure Data Factory, yeah, and this is for release pipeline. This is for release pipeline, okay, and build Azure Data Factory code is for build pipeline to create or export ARM templates if you want to use ARM templates, yeah. But generally you don't have to use this build if you just want to use the code, if you want to deploy from the code. So if you want to use this one, you don't have to use this build because it has 2 methods. Yeah, this build has 2 methods. The first one is to validate the code, checking some names, some dependencies if they exist, and etc. And the second one is to validate as the Azure Data Factory does, and export Azure Data Factory and export ARM templates. Okay, so you still can use this build if you want to validate the code, and then you can publish with the publish Azure Data Factory code. And this one, as I showed you at the end, you can use optionally if you want to test linked services. So Mitesh, let me know if I answered your question. Okay. I see that you just said that I answered your question. Yeah, great, thank you. That's fantastic. I hope that helped. And yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. So let me very quickly back to the slides and show you this one. So this is the build task. Yeah. So the task has two modes, as I mentioned. Yeah. The build only, which reads all the files, validates the objects, the files, the JSON format, specifically check all the dependencies if object exists, etc. And if the file has exactly the same name like its object. Yeah. So that's simple validation. And recently I've added the second mode, which is basically using the ADF utility npm package from Microsoft. And this method is even better because it's validate all the things that Microsoft validates behind the scenes. If you're trying to publish the Azure Data Factory from browser, from UI, and also it export the ARM templates. Even if you're not going to use it, that's fine. Yeah, you can have and store few extra files in the artifact. Yeah, so it's not a problem. So I would prefer probably use the second method right now. Yeah. So Joseph is asking, okay, I'm not sure if asking, yeah, will you be supporting the ADFtools extension yourself? ADFtools. I mean, ADFtools is those two tools, yeah. PowerShell. Let me go back. There's two tools, yeah, PowerShell module and Azure DevOps extension. Yeah, both of these tools has been created by me. If I'm supporting them from the beginning and still supporting those tasks. So don't worry, it's very well tested. Already I have probably almost 200 of unit tests of the PowerShell module code. So it's tested very well. If I'm adding new features, they are tested as well. So I'm definitely supporting all those tools. They are created by me and publishing by me. If you have ideas of the new features, or if you would like to add something or maybe change something, let me know. The whole code is publicly available because those tools are free. So the code is also publicly available in the GitHub, in my GitHub secure player. Let me show you, because secure player is my blog, so I named the same tools. This is the PowerShell module. So this is the whole documentation as well and the code as well. So if you have any questions, issues, or new ideas for or ideas for new feature, go in here and put the new issue. Yeah, I will be maintaining that. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining this session. I hope it was very useful, and you learned something, and hopefully you will use these tools, whatever, if you prefer, deployment from the code directly, or if you prefer deployment from ARM templates. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Have a good evening or have a good day. Bye bye.